Welcome to the listening section of the TOEFL mock test, brought to you by Spinta. This section measures your ability to understand conversations and lectures in English. In this section, you will listen to several conversations and academic lectures. Each conversation and lecture is followed by a number of questions. You will hear each conversation or lecture only one time. You may take notes while you listen. You may use your notes to help you answer the questions. Some of the questions will replay part of the audio for you. Answer the questions based on what is stated or implied by the speakers. You must answer each question before moving on. You cannot return to previous questions in this section.
Good morning, everyone. Today I want to examine soil carbon sequestration and its potential role in urban green infrastructure as a climate mitigation strategy. I will first define key terms, then discuss measurement methods, review empirical case studies, and finally consider policy implications and trade-offs. When we say soil carbon sequestration, we mean the net uptake of atmospheric carbon dioxide by plants that is then transferred to soil organic matter, where it can be stabilized for years to centuries. Soil carbon is part of the terrestrial carbon pool, and it interacts with fluxes like net primary productivity and soil respiration. Measurement is important because claims about sequestration often determine carbon credits and incentives. Scientists use several approaches to quantify soil carbon change. One common tool is eddy covariance towers, which measure net ecosystem exchange and provide continuous flux data at the landscape scale. We also rely on periodic soil cores to measure changes in soil organic carbon concentration, and on isotopic analysis to distinguish new carbon inputs from older carbon pools. For example, carbon isotopes can help us separate fossil-derived carbon from recently fixed plant carbon when we assess urban soils that have complex contamination histories. Turning to case studies, I want to highlight 3 examples that illustrate scale and uncertainty. First, an urban tree planting program in a large city in the northeastern United States increased above-ground biomass but showed only modest soil carbon gains over a decade. Soil accumulation was slow because newly planted trees must grow, and because soil stabilization processes take time. Second, a prairie restoration project in the Midwest United States demonstrated measurable soil carbon increases within 20 years, driven by deep rooting systems and increased soil aggregation. Third, a pilot project in Iowa tested biochar amendments to cropland soils and found improved soil carbon stability, along with higher water retention and modest yield improvements. Biochar is a form of charcoal produced from biomass pyrolysis. It resists decomposition and can persist in soils for decades when properly applied. These examples illustrate that management practices matter, and that outcomes depend on ecosystem type, soil texture, climate, and prior land use. Now, a frequent question is whether urban green infrastructure such as street trees, green roofs, and restored parks can meaningfully offset city emissions. The short answer is that they can contribute to mitigation, but they have limits. Green infrastructure provides co-benefits, including heat island reduction, stormwater management, improved biodiversity, and human well-being. However, the magnitude of carbon sequestration is relatively small compared to fossil fuel emissions from transportation industry and buildings in most cities. This does not mean that soil carbon projects are useless, but it does mean that they cannot replace rapid reductions in fossil fuel emissions. Rather, soil carbon strategies should be seen as complementary. They buy time and provide local environmental benefits while broader decarbonization occurs. Another important issue is permanence. Disturbance, such as land development, drought, or conversion, can reverse gains and release stored carbon. Therefore, monitoring, reporting and verification protocols, or MRV, are essential for any program that issues credits for soil carbon. In practical terms, policymakers should combine emission reductions with incentives for proven soil management practices, like reduced tillage cover cropping, biochar, where appropriate, and long-term protection of restored areas. To conclude, urban soil carbon sequestration is a realistic and valuable component of a broader climate strategy, but it is not a substitute for deep cuts in fossil fuel emissions. I will now take questions.
Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
This does not mean that soil carbon projects are useless, but it does mean that they cannot replace rapid reductions in fossil fuel emissions.
For more TOEFL mock tests, as well as IELTS and Cambridge practice, visit www.spinta.org. We provide updated tests every single day, AI feedback for your speaking and writing responses, and access to a wide range of high-quality mock tests to help you prepare with confidence.